What drives a soul to choose addiction and suffering instead of love, peace, and compassion? Is it a soul's fate, a curse from their past? Or do they deliberately choose darkness as their life's journey? Some of the most spiritually advanced souls on earth are addicts, homeless people, and those society calls lost. Addiction is not a punishment, it is an intentional path chosen by the soul to break open the illusion of separation and to discover the deepest forms of compassion and love that only emerge from total darkness. There is something humanity has deeply misunderstood about addiction. People look at it from the surface as if it is merely a bad habit, a weakness, or a disease of the body. But from the eyes of an ancient mystic, from the vision of one who has studied the soul for many lifetimes, addiction is something far more sacred, far more tragic, and far more revealing. Addiction is not random. Addiction is not meaningless. Addiction is a language, the forgotten language of the soul that has lost its way home. To understand this, we must begin from the very first steps of a soul's journey. Every soul, before entering this physical world, exists in a place beyond words. It lives in a reality that is not bound by time, form, or suffering. It lives in a state of union, a feeling of absolute belonging, absolute peace, and absolute love. The soul knows itself not as separate from existence, but as existence itself. There is no loneliness there is no fear, there is no emptiness. It is a world where nothing is missing, but when a soul chooses to incarnate into human life, it agrees to a sacred forgetting. It agrees to take on a body. And with the body comes limitation, hunger, pain, impermanence, and the greatest suffering of all, the illusion of separation. You see, when a baby is born into this world, that child still carries the fragrance of the other side. Look into the eyes of a newborn and you will see a depth, a purity, that has not yet been shaped by this world. But as the child grows, something begins to happen. The density of this world, the noise, the expectations, the traumas, the loneliness, begins to cover over the memory of that original home. And for some souls, this forgetting feels unbearable. Some souls are especially sensitive. Some carry a deep memory of peace. Some have spent many lifetimes in higher realms where love was the only language. When these souls find themselves in a world of harshness, violence, rejection, or emotional coldness, they experience a grief that has no name. It is not just the grief of a difficult childhood. It is the grief of exile from their true nature. But the human mind does not understand this grief. It cannot say, I miss the source. It cannot say, I long for reunion with the divine. Instead, it feels only a strange emptiness, a restless hunger, a silent pain that seems to have no clear cause. And this is where addiction quietly begins. Addiction is born the moment a person feels deeply disconnected from their own soul, but does not know how to return. Without knowing what is missing, the person begins to search outside themselves for anything that can recreate, even for a few minutes, the feeling of warmth, relief, belonging, or peace. It is never about the substance or the behavior itself, the drink, the drug, the food, the thrill, the approval from others. These are only symbols. They are poor substitutes for the lost feeling of home. For a moment, the alcohol softens the edges of reality. For a moment, the drug creates a wave of pleasure that silences the mind. For a moment, the gambling rush or the sexual high feels like freedom. But like all illusions, the effect fades. And when it fades, the person is not only left with their original emptiness, they are left with shame, regret, and a deeper sense of being trapped. This is why addiction is so cruel. It offers temporary escape, while deepening the wound that caused the escape in the first place. But let us look even deeper. Why would a soul choose this journey? Why would a soul willingly walk a path where pain seems inevitable? From the hidden teachings of the ancient mystics, there is an answer. Some souls choose to experience addiction not because they are weak, but because they are profoundly courageous. These souls come to explore the furthest distance from their own light, only so that they can remember how to find their way back. In doing so, they become maps for others. They gain compassion that is not theoretical, it is lived. They understand suffering from the inside, and this understanding becomes medicine they can one day offer to others. Addiction, in this deeper view, is not a punishment. It is a message. It is the soul's way of crying out, "Come home to me, come back to your original self. Nothing outside of you will ever satisfy what is missing within." But this message is rarely heard early in the journey. Most people trapped in addiction believe they are broken. They believe they are failures. They believe they are unworthy of love. And so they spiral deeper, running faster from themselves, searching harder for relief that never lasts. True healing begins only when the person pauses long enough to ask the real question, what am I actually longing for? What is this craving trying to tell me? What would it feel like to be at peace without needing to escape? This is not an easy question. It often requires facing great pain. It requires sitting with wounds that have been buried for years. It requires patience, kindness, and often guidance from those who have walked the path before. But the mystics have always taught one eternal truth. The peace you are searching for has never left you. It has only been covered. The love you are longing for is not in a bottle or a pill or another person. It is already inside your being. Quiet, waiting, eternal. Addiction, then, is not your enemy. It is your messenger. It is the sacred alarm bell of the soul saying, stop looking outward, turn inward, remember who you are, come home. This is why so many people, after healing from addiction, become the most beautiful souls you will ever meet. They carry a depth of humility. They know suffering intimately. They no longer judge others harshly. They have seen the dark, and they have returned to the light. And in doing so, they radiate a wisdom that cannot be learned from books. Addiction is never just about the substance. Addiction is about the soul's forgotten longing to feel alive, to feel loved, to feel whole. And every soul, no matter how lost, carries the key to their own return. Because home was never far away, it was always within. To truly understand why a soul would choose the painful journey of addiction, we must enter into the ancient mystical knowledge of soul contracts. In the simplest terms, a soul contract is an agreement made by the soul before entering the physical body. It is a decision made consciously in the higher realms about what kinds of experiences, lessons, challenges, and growth that soul wishes to go through in a lifetime. Now, this idea surprises many people. They wonder, why would any soul ever choose to suffer? Why would anyone choose pain, loss, addiction, or trauma? Isn't the purpose of life to be happy? But here lies the great misunderstanding of human life. The purpose of the soul is not comfort. The purpose of the soul is growth, evolution, remembrance, and expansion. And strangely, growth does not always happen in peace or ease. Growth often happens in the very places where we feel lost, broken, or farthest away from who we truly are. When a soul prepares to enter this world, it does not see pain in the same way the human mind sees it. The soul does not fear failure. It does not fear loss. It does not even fear death. From the perspective of the soul, every experience, light or dark, joyful or painful, holds value, meaning, and wisdom. The soul knows that no experience is ever wasted. Everything shapes its evolution. One of the most profound lessons that addiction teaches is the lesson of surrender. Addiction often takes a person to a place where their own willpower fails. No matter how intelligent they are, how strong they try to be, they discover that they cannot control the addiction by force alone. This is deeply humbling, and it breaks the illusion of control, the same illusion that many souls carry from lifetime to lifetime. Addiction can force a person to kneel, not out of weakness, but out of a deep realization that true strength comes from surrendering to something greater than the limited ego. This is why many recovery paths, like the 12 steps, begin with admitting powerlessness and turning towards a higher power. This is not a failure. This is ancient spiritual wisdom disguised as suffering. Many mystics believe that souls who have carried great pride, stubbornness, or ego in past lives sometimes choose addiction to dissolve those old patterns. They want to remember humility. They want to remember connection. They want to break down the false identity of separateness. Addiction, as painful as it is, becomes the gateway to this surrender. Another lesson souls often choose through addiction is the lesson of compassion, real living compassion, not just intellectual kindness. A person who has been through addiction knows suffering intimately. They know shame, they know loneliness, they know darkness from the inside. Because of this, when they heal, they often become extraordinary healers, teachers, guides, or friends. They do not judge others easily. They see past the masks that people wear. Their compassion is authentic because it was born in the fires of their own pain. Many souls agree to take on this journey precisely because they want to develop this kind of heart, a heart that understands rather than condemns. Addiction often shatters a person's self-image. It destroys their pride. It exposes their weaknesses. But through this destruction, a powerful question arises. Can I still love myself even when I am not perfect? Even when I've fallen? Even when I've made mistakes? This lesson is at the heart of many soul contracts involving addiction. Some souls have spent many lifetimes being perfectionists, achievers, or overly identified with status and success. In this lifetime, they choose addiction to confront all of that. They come here to learn unconditional self-love, love that does not depend on external success or human standards of worthiness. Learning to love oneself even at the lowest point is one of the most sacred lessons a soul can carry. There is also a mysterious teaching that ancient mystics speak of, that some souls choose addiction not only for personal lessons but for collective purposes. Addiction is not just a personal wound, it is a mirror of collective human suffering. It reflects how disconnected modern society has become from true connection, true community, true purpose, and true love. Some souls agree to carry this suffering in their own lives to help awaken the world to its deeper wounds. Their life becomes a living example, a message to others. Look here, see what happens when love is missing, see what happens when a human being is lost in separation. And when these souls heal, when they speak, when they share their story, they carry a power that can awaken thousands. Now, it is very important to understand something here. A soul may choose the conditions for its lessons, such as addiction, but it does not choose every detail of the story. The soul agrees to enter a human life where addiction may arise, but once incarnated, the human being still has free will. They can respond in many different ways. They can stay lost for years, or they can awaken quickly. They can resist, or they can surrender. They can run away from their pain, or they can face it with courage. This is the beauty of human life. The contract sets the stage, but the choices belong to the person living the story. And every small choice towards healing, towards love, towards self-awareness is a victory of the soul over the illusion of separation. This is why, from the view of ancient wisdom, addiction is never just a curse. It is a chosen classroom. It is a journey that, while filled with shadows, holds the seeds of light. Many of the greatest healers, teachers, and wise souls of this world were once deeply lost, not because they were weak, but because they were brave enough to walk through darkness, gather its lessons, and return home carrying medicine for others. The soul does not fear the dark because it knows it is made of light. Some souls, known as pain bearers or cycle breakers, agree to carry the wounds of their family, community, or culture. These souls face immense personal devastation, but do so to heal and transform inherited pain, ultimately becoming agents of healing for future generations. Their work is difficult but powerful, as they bring healing not only to themselves, but to those around them. Healing, according to these teachings, is never isolated. When a soul breaks a cycle of suffering or chooses self-love and forgiveness, this healing radiates out, impacting their family, friends, and even strangers. Thus, no life is wasted, even if full healing doesn't occur within a lifetime. Every soul's transformation contributes to collective growth and evolution. The highest work of the soul is often invisible to the human eye. Society tends to value external success, but spiritually, inner transformation, humility, love, and wisdom are most honored. Souls facing hardship, such as addiction or abandonment, demonstrate enormous strength, grace, and courage, even though this inner power is not always visible. Ultimately, no soul is ever truly lost. Whether a soul's journey ends in suffering or despair, their experience, wisdom, and courage continue beyond death, and all souls are walking home to their original light and truth. The journey may be short or long, but each soul's path is sacred, beautiful, and part of the great return to wholeness. Therefore, judgment based on the conditions of a soul's current life is unwise, as the true story of each soul is far more mysterious and beautiful than it may seem.